G'day guys, Rick here from Perth Bullion Exchange, perthbullion.com.au, and we thought we'd do a bit of an educational video and talk a little bit about interest rates, given what's been happening in the market a little bit. So just as a precursor, it's obviously not financial advice, so please do your own research, and it's just my opinion, so have a look for yourselves. It's just a bit of a thought-provoking event, I suppose, discussion. So the easiest way when you're thinking about gold and to consider it and how interest rates might affect it is to sort of think about it as its own currency. So what happens with interest rates is as interest rates change in each currency, investors are then incentivized to move their funds into that particular currency. So it strengthens the currency against other currencies. So if one currency increases the interest rate, investors are going to flood it into that market to get the increased return on their money. So then that weakens the other currencies with a lower interest rate. So the reason that this has had such impact recently, because you might recall a couple of weeks ago, I don't know how much people might be following some of the financial events around the world, but so there was a lot of talk with some weaker inflation data that came out of the US that the US might need to do an emergency rate cut as much as 0.5%. Now, they're not going to do that after all, by all accounts, but the bets on them now starting their rate cutting cycle are much higher, and they're talking up to 1% before the year end in the base two rate cuts of 50 basis points by the end of the year. So now that that's happened, and that's likely why you'll see in US dollar terms, we're seeing all-time highs now in gold, whereas in Australian terms, we're not, because what's happened is there was a lot of talk about Australia potentially cutting rates as well, and now that's been, deflated the expectation, because now the RBA has come out and said they definitely will not be cutting rates by the end of the year, and it'll likely go considerably further into next year before that even is on the table. And there's still a possibility of a rate rise in Australia. So the Aussie dollar has strengthened pretty heavily against the US dollar. And then that means in Aussie dollar terms, precious metals are now, whilst they're still going up, cheaper than what they have been, whereas American dollar terms are at all-time highs. So it's just a little bit of something to consider. I think it's a particularly good opportunity, because I think at the moment we're probably seeing a reduced price for precious metals comparative to what they're likely to be in the medium to long-term future, because once Australia does tip over and start to go into their own rate cutting cycle, we're likely to see, like a dual driving force in that precious metals price in Australian terms, because we're going to have not only precious metals going to be, hopefully making gains against all currencies in US dollar terms, we're likely to see the Aussie dollar start to come off a little bit against the US dollar as we head into next year, and the rate cuts are on the horizon for Australia. So once that sort of starts to happen, we'll have sort of a two-pronged attack at the price, which hopefully we'll see some really good gains in Australian dollar terms. In my opinion, it could be quite the opportunity to acquire some precious metals now while we have a stronger Aussie dollar. I mean, obviously, everybody knows the best way to do it is in dollar cost averaging, and then you sort of take some of these factors out. But do some research on it. I think it's a bit of a pivotal time with precious metals and interest rates and how things are going to pan out over the next 6 to 12 months. And I think there is a really good opportunity for people if they, spend a bit of time to look at the data and what might be happening in the next 3 to 6 months. And if there's any questions about any of this sort of stuff, I'm no expert. There's much smarter people than me out there. So by all means, do a bit of research. But if you do have some questions, we'll do our best to answer them. Chuck them in the comments below. If not, please like, share, subscribe to the channel. We'll be bringing out some more educational content, and we'll probably do a bit of a price prediction one in the next week or so, just in regards to some of this stuff and where we think, only in our opinion, where we think metals prices might be by year end, and maybe even further out than that. And we'll have a bit of a discussion around that. Anyway, that'll do from us. Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you all next time.